Hey everyone, my name is Claude and my topic is school and its effect on the development of creativity. Before I can even introduce you to my main claim of this seemingly subjective topic, there are some things that I would like to level with you guys. So, creativity is defined as the mental characteristic that allows a person to think outside the box and or produce something new or imaginative. Creativity first requires an opportunity for divergent thinking to even begin that whole process. Also, something that needs to be debunked is the function of school. Some people might think that creativity has no necessary or functional use in school. However, philosopher Mortimer Adler, progressive educator George Counts, and education historian David Tack actually all disagree with what the true purpose of school is. However, one pragmatic concept that they all agree in was job preparation, to which most, if not all jobs require producing original ideas to solve problems. As Stanford economist Paul Romer put it, ideas do not fall from the sky, they come from people. So this leads me to my main claim for tonight, which is current U.S. high school curricula negatively impact the development of creativity of students. And to support this, my three secondary claims are: one, American youth creativity is declining; two, creativity is actively discouraged among students in classrooms; and three, educators are restricted from straying outside the curriculum. Going back to my first point, American youth creativity is indeed declining. Professor of Education Kyung-Hee Kim's recent research report showed a continuous decline in creativity among American school children over the past 3 decades through the TTCT, which is the Torrance test of creative thinking. And this report showed that at all grade levels, kindergarten through 12th grade, scores had been declining ever since 1980. Kim further reports that children have become less emotionally expressive, less imaginative, less apt to seemingly irrelevant things, less synthesizing, and less likely to see things from a different angle. Furthermore, social and economic theorist Richard Florida created the global creative class statistical diagram for his Harvard Business Review titled America's Looming Creativity Crisis. U.S. ranked number 11 with only 23.6% of total workers in creative jobs. Furthermore, a children's education researcher, professor at Boston College, Peter Gray, believes that the constant monitoring, curricular evaluation, and adult direction prevents students from exploring alternative ideas and solutions. So this leads me to my second claim, which is creativity is actively discouraged in classrooms. Assignments expect students to show technical mastery and growth of a subject. If you were to look at a rubric or a project guideline, you will see that points are not awarded for creativity. Field supervisor of Fordham University and author David Green reports how he heard about a girl who could comprehend the Harry Potter series before she was 11 and read two novels a week. Yet she thinks she sucks at English because she is now nuanced to thinking physical scores determine her skill in this subject. Students also must absorb whatever content is given to them. Pedagogist and educator Paulo Freire explains in his novel, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, how education has become an act of depositing. The teacher gives the planned content while students receive, memorize, and repeat. The system forces students to comply and adapt to whatever the teacher gives, further reducing their consciousness for what else lies beyond that information. And now to my last claim, which is educators are restricted from straying outside the curriculum. Fred M. Hetchinger education editor of New York Times, believes that educators are at risk of censure when students do not meet educational standards. In physical form, mandated teacher evaluations puts more pressure on teachers to focus on these standards. Educators are pressured by national, state, and district testing programs like the KC, the SAT, AP, and IB, all intrinsically force teachers to adapt their curriculum to those tests. Lastly, limited class time forces teachers to exclude creativity activities. High schools indeed only allow 1 to 2 max hours per class. So this really restricts how much a teacher can even put in their plans. So to recap everything I've said, for my main claim, that was U.S. high school curricula negatively impact the development of creativity. Students, my first claim was that American youth creativity is indeed declining. Creativity is actively discouraged in classrooms. And lastly, educators are restricted from straying outside the classroom. And
Do you have part of an outline you can give me now? Thank you. At the risk of being not very creative and forcing you to observe the rubric here, let's talk about a couple of things. Look, the proposition is clearly identified. You have a good layout of what the preview is. I do think the controversy is defined a little bit. There's some risk that you talk about what the function of school is, those sorts of things. The idea that school is the main force for creativity, I think, needs to be established a little bit more. I can certainly see where there might be limitations on how schools would encourage such creativity. The question then becomes, though, if that's the only place that people become creative. It seems to me like, especially with the technological innovations we've had in the last 30 years, which is what your evidence is talking about, a lot of creativity would have migrated out of the schools and into other venues, and we don't really get much discussion of that. We got a lot of explanation about the importance of creativity. There's a couple of statistical measurements. I'm a little iffy on some of those things. Ranking number 11 doesn't sound particularly bad, but maybe it is. Only 26% are in jobs that require them to be creative. I'm not sure that that's a result of a lack of creativity. That just sounds like there's not an outlet for the creativity that people do have. So we may be making a backwards inference on that particular point. The description of some of the limitations of the academic system, I think, is okay for as far as it goes. That may, in fact, be the place that you want to do more of your argument. I think there's a good argument to be made there that a lot of the changes that have taken place in education are having the kinds of problems that you're talking about. But it's generally solid. I think you are rushing a little bit, primarily because you have so much testimony evidence that you want to offer on the importance of creativity and the decline of creativity. I'm a little concerned that Professor Kim's amazing use of the Torrance test of creative thinking is presented without us having much sense of what that entails and how it measures. It sounds like it's pretty important, and I don't doubt that it is probably a reasonable measurement of these sorts of things, but I'm going, okay, now maybe I'm not creative enough to think about how you measure creativity with a test. So I'm just trying to envision something like that, and I think maybe a little bit more background on that would be helpful, since that is one of the main, that's the only statistical source that you have for suggesting that there's been any difference. All right, thank you.